Ready?
Hmm?
All right. Today I wanted to talk about after going through the Akai CR80D. We kind of went through that thing in a lot of detail. I'll circle back around, talk about that after we get done with this one. It'll be another installment in here about how it works and some of the changes I did to the preamps. So this one is the new one. This is a Panasonic RS806, late 70s unit. It's not quad. It's just a stereo only. So it does record, does playback. It's kind of a mid-tier model. They're really nice. There's probably going to be a lot of more of these around than the Akai units. This is the housing. We've already taken it apart, but I wanted to kind of show you what this looked like. This one is in really good shape. Typically, the plastics on this the chrome it'll sort of evaporate and it'll sort of come off over time if it's exposed to humid air or the outside or sunlight or anything like that. This is one that's been kept indoors. It's all covered up. It's in almost perfect condition. There's a little bit of light wear on the fast forward button from when you press your finger on it. But this unit here just needed a little bit of cleanup with some detergent and a soft brush and a Q-tip. So I went through, cleaned this up, cleaned the outer housing. It was in a house with smokers, so it was a little bit of cigarette residue on it, but it all came off. To get it apart, there's a wooden base to it. It's actually made out of plywood, which is kind of weird. But there's a set of screws on the back or on the other side of it. Pull all those off. This cover comes off. I always love this. No user serviceable parts inside. Yeah, right. And once you get those screws out, then there'll be some additional screws on the bottom.
Wood. What a trip.
Yeah, right. Totally. It is wood. You don't see that anymore. And so you take all the screws out, and one of the things, so you'll notice what I did, I pulled the screws out, and I'm like, okay, this thing slides out to these slides. Chassis is going to come out. It's not going anywhere. Well, what's happening, there was two knobs, which are on grooved shafts, spline shafts. Two knobs on the front. They're the left and right volume controls. You'll have to carefully take your hand and just kind of pull those out. They'll be a little stiff, but they will come off. Sometimes it can be really stiff, but once these come off, these are the only two things that prevent the unit from sliding off. Pull these off the shafts, set them aside, and then you'll have over here, you're going to have the house or the actual chassis. So that's what it's going to look like coming out of there. Let me go through a few pieces on this. All of these chrome buttons usually clean up with a little bit of the Lysol kitchen cleaner or detergent, one or the other. You scrub these. There's usually be a lot of residue from people's fingers and just household, oils and stuff that kind of gets on there. But you can pull all that stuff off with that Lysol. Works pretty good. It cleans this chrome up. You don't really need to polish it. If the plastic is in good shape and the chrome is not deteriorated, it'll shine up like new. Same thing for the meter face. You got to be really careful, but a little bit of Lysol. Just kind of go over that with a brush or a cotton swab or something like that. Clean all the residue off there, and then follow up with a little bit of Windex. This one cleaned up perfectly, no scratches, no nothing. At some point, we'll probably go through a meter that's been scratched up, how to restore that. But for right now, this is just a simple cleanup for dirt. Let's see, from the top. Now this, I didn't check any of the caps because the other unit, all the caps were good in here. And so we're sort of crossing our fingers saying these high-end units, caps are generally good. You see how many there are in here. I'm not going to start measuring them. They're probably okay. And when I tested it, everything sounded perfect. So chances are all the caps were good. I didn't see anything leaking or anything like that. So far, so good. In terms of service on this, we're just going to focus on that there's no problems with it, and it's just a cleanup and a service item. No particular order, but there's the two pots for the record and actually playback. They go through these two potentiometers. You'll want to come in here with some tuner cleaner, hit that through the tops, rotate them, then you're done. There's a mode switch. I didn't do it because I never plan on putting it in record, but you can squirt a little bit into the top here and work it back and forth for the record mode and get this switch cleaned up if you're having any dirt or noise from that.
Where do you clean
it? Through the top. There's these holes right here. I'm sticking the pencil in there.
What do you put in there?
Tuner cleaner. Oh. There's a little nozzle like WD-40, and you squirt it in there, work the switch back and forth, and you usually can clean the contacts up.
That's the switch, okay.
It's the multi-mode switch that transits between record and playback.
So that's one of these.
It's one of the fronts.
One of these two, yeah.
Yeah, there's a mechanical linkage up here that you
I
know
see.
goes between here, and I think it
Gotcha.
might happen with this. I think
Yeah.
this too.
Yeah.
I got to trigger this manually. I think that's the eject switch.
Oh.
But this moves. I did not actually clean this. Didn't seem like it needed it, but you might want to do it if you're in there. If yours is older. Let's see. The next big thing. There's this is the capstan. So there's the top bearing, and that's a bronze bearing. This whole thing comes out, and we're going to see that when we flip it over. One drop of oil on this after it's clean. That's it. No more, because it'll run down onto the capstan. You're going to be sad when it goes out on your tape. So one tiny drop would actually put this back together. Heads underneath here. You can inspect that, and you get your isopropyl and your Q-tip. Clean the head up. This one, the capstan was really dirty, even though the person that had it was really, really careful and cleaned it.
It was me.
Which was her. And it was extremely dirty, which is just a wear item. And head was in good shape, but it was pretty dirty, and it would have slipped if I hadn't cleaned it really well. I did actually use lacquer thinner on that, so you may want to do that.
Well, the only thing I could do was with one of those long Q-tips.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Just
don't have
go
it
in there
apart.
and clean it with a long Q-tip.
Right. And so, I mean, you're not going to do that. She doesn't have lacquer thinner when she's like 14 years old. So we do those, so we're going to use a more aggressive solvent on it. So I wanted to...
But I did clean it. That's
Right.
what I'm saying.
Well,
I
right, but
actually
you're not
did.
going to get everything off
No, I
because
know,
it takes a very
But I
aggressive
mean, how many
solvent.
14-year-olds do you know who
Have lacquer thinner?
have long Q-tips and clean their capstan?
Right. Well, it's just what it says is no matter how good of care you're going to have junk on the capstan, you got to clean it. So let's go over to the heart of this whole thing, which is the track change mechanism. This is where the head, we covered this before on the other unit. You can shoot in here on the side. You can see it underneath. If I want to go on the other side, shoot from that side. There's a little white plastic
I don't know
bobbin.
what I'm supposed to be looking at.
There's a white plastic bobbin, vinyl bobbin in there.
From this? Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
there it is.
I got it.
Now, I'm going to emulate track change.
Okay.
If you'll see, this is a latch, moving the head up and down.
But you're missing the kudunk.
Yeah, this one's actually pretty quiet. The Akai sounds like a gunshot. This one is really quiet. This one, the grease on it is pretty benign. It was actually still okay, but I went ahead and pulled it out anyway. So this transport mechanism did have grease. It was kind of viscous all over this this mechanism, this little ratchet pawl. Pulled it all off with the lacquer thinner and the brush per the other video, and went back through with my spindle lubricant. Just you can see there's a very light coating on it. There's not much. You don't need a lot. Thin coat, and I noticed it was pretty sticky when I first cranked it up before I cleaned it. Now it's like butter. It just comes up. There's no problems whatsoever.
What's this big honking thing that says 4 ohms on
This
it? Yeah.
solenoid, that's the solenoid that runs the track changer. So,
Oh, I see. Okay.
and you would hear it click. So the only other thing you need to do here, there's a few lubrication points. You can kind of see these little, and I showed you this before, these pivot points. And this guy right down, there's a pivot. So clean the grease off with your lacquer thinner carefully with a brush. Come back in, put a little bit of grease, not a ton, a little brush, and you're good to go. This doesn't really get much of a workout. It's only during eject, so we're not going to pay a ton of attention to that.